Voices of the World brings you first-hand stories about the triumphs, tragedies, and turning points that shape human lives. Hello.
Bonjour.
Servus. Grüß euch.
Swagat.
Hasta la próxima.
Now streaming, listen in to this true story.
My name is Kelly. I am originally from Connecticut, and I've been in the Washington, D.C. area for about 15 years. I previously lived in Alexandria, and now I live in Washington, D.C., where I also work in the Washington, D.C. government. I'm going to talk today about my experience with my first marriage, divorce, and moving on to be a better version of myself and to have a healthy relationship with my second husband. So I got married fairly young when I was still living in Connecticut. At the time I got married, I had some troubles with self-confidence, and I think this caused me to look for a partner that wasn't healthy for me, and it was what I would say is a sort of codependent emotional relationship. Over time throughout the marriage, I changed a lot, and I think perhaps he did also. I got more confident in myself, came out of my shell a lot, started new activities, grew in my career, and in the last few years of the marriage, things were deteriorating rapidly, and it got to the point where it was very unhealthy, and we did try to work it out, but with therapy, we just found that there was not any way to reconcile the differences. I never thought I would be the person in the 50% getting divorced. I always thought I would be married forever. I was going to be having a 75th anniversary, on the porch with this man. And then here I was making this devastating decision and totally life-changing decision. So it was the separation that did prompt me to move to DC. I left Alexandria, where I lived in a 4-bedroom house, and moved with my dog to a tiny studio apartment near DuPont Circle. It was a huge shock, and it was really hard at first. I was definitely going through some depression for a few months, but once we sold our house and I got settled in the new place, things started to improve really quickly. And one thing that helped was further developing a friendship that I had already had before the divorce. The friendship was with Romario, my former language partner from Brazil. We practiced English together just over chat and email, and we had been communicating for a couple of years. And after the separation, I confided in him about how I had moved on my own and was having a hard time. He was really surprised because we never talked about anything personal, and he didn't have any idea that I had any trouble in my marriage, but he was really supportive. He was always sending me inspirational quotes, and sometimes he sent them in Portuguese to see if I could translate them, which was kind of cute. And we started to chat a lot more, and eventually we started to also meet on video and talk there, and we developed a really close friendship, and his support, along with the support of many other wonderful friends, really helped me get through that time and get back on my feet. And as we continued to talk, we sort of flirted a little bit too, and he's a little younger than me, so I was kind of surprised he seemed to be interested in a sort of flirtation more than friendship kind of relationship. But I was newly single and just trying to have fun and experiment, learn about myself, so it seemed like a good idea, and it didn't seem to have any risk involved. I trusted him, and at the same time, I thought, since he's younger, there's no chance this will be serious. I can just have fun with it right now. And our developing relationship led to us planning a visit for me to go to Brazil and go on a beach vacation with him, which seemed like it would just be a fun thing and, be kind of a celebration of my independence, and then I would just move on with my life. However, over time, and after the visit, we discovered that the feelings were much stronger than just some kind of fling or flirtation. And it got very emotionally heavy. And then we decided he would visit me in the United States. So after having a trip to Brazil in January, he came to visit me in the USA 6 months later in July. And we had a wonderful 3 weeks together here. And then again, it was very emotionally complicated because we were very much in love with each other, but the situation was extremely complicated. He lived in Brazil. I live here. Financially, it's very difficult to have a long distance relationship, especially across international borders. And additionally, I got into the whole thing thinking it was just going to be fun and not anything serious. And then it became real. And I don't think I was quite ready for that. I was still figuring myself out, figuring out what I wanted. Another thing I realized during this journey of discovery was that I had been inadvertently seeking out romantic relationships with men that saw themselves as victims and felt they needed someone to fix them. This was how it was with my ex and caused what I felt was this codependent emotional relationship. I had confidence problems. He needed to be fixed, and we were just using each other to make ourselves feel okay. And you really do have to feel okay about yourself to have a healthy relationship. So I realized that with Homario, things were very different than with my ex. It was a healthy interaction, but the logistics were just so complicated. And we ended up deciding that it wasn't going to work and that we had to break up. It was devastating and very emotional, but at that time, I was not ready for a serious commitment with an international relationship. So I started going out on the dating scene, as they say, and kind of exploring more what I liked, what I was interested in, seeing what was out there. I had some different dating experiences, and through speed dating, I met a very nice man. I'm going to call him Steve. Steve and I hit it off really quickly and ended up starting an exclusive relationship within just a few weeks of meeting. And he was a lovely, wonderful man. I realized, yes, this is a person that is not seeing himself as a victim. He's a healthy person. I can have a healthy relationship with this person. And he was very sweet and romantic and loving. He had wonderful friends and family. We were having a good time. We even had a couple trips together. But over time, I realized even though he's a really great man, I am not falling in love with him. In spite of the things we have in common, in spite of how sweet he is, I'm not feeling a level of emotional, spiritual, and intellectual connection that I need from a relationship. And those were things I had so deeply with Mario, and they just weren't happening with Steve. So it was very difficult, but I did decide I needed to end the relationship with Steve because I didn't think that I was ever going to feel that depth of connection with him. And I think it was a little hard for him to understand because his personality was a bit different than mine, but I know it was for the best. And after we broke up, during that time, Homario and I had still been a little bit in connection. We had still chatted a bit and stayed friends, and I helped him with English still. And I was also studying Portuguese at that time. He also dated some other women and had another relationship, but he had the same experience as me where he didn't find the same connection with somebody else. And after the breakups, we both talked more about us, and I realized at that point that I was ready to make the commitment to this difficult long-term relationship with him. I was willing to spend whatever money it took. I was willing to deal with the difficult times apart because I just didn't see myself finding this connection with anybody else. So we decided to plan some visits for the next year, and then if things were going well, to proceed with engagement and completing an immigration process. So after a year and a half of not seeing each other, he came to visit again, and he stayed for a month, and we had a wonderful time. And then I took another trip to Brazil where I met his family for the first time, when they are all very lovely people. And he came to visit here again. And after those 3 visits, we were ready to take it to the next level. So we decided we would begin the process to get what's called the K-1 fiancé visa for him to move to the United States so that we could get married. This is the visa that is made famous by the ridiculous television show 90 Day Fiancé. Most stories are not quite that dramatic in real life. And I think, although I haven't seen the show, from what I understand, they may make the process look a bit simpler than it actually is. It's a very cumbersome process. So I did months of research so that we could file this process ourselves instead of paying a lawyer. When you start the process, you have to send a really long application and a whole bunch of supporting documents to show that you have a real relationship, that you've met in person, that, this isn't some kind of scam. You have to show evidence of previous divorces, of citizenship, all sorts of things like that. So I spent time gathering evidence, working on the application. Then you have to send it off with a hefty $535 fee. And then you have to wait while it sits in the abyss of USCIS applications to get reviewed. So we were lucky. Our K-1 process went pretty fast. We waited for 3 months till we heard our initial petition was approved. Then there were more applications, more papers, more fees. And ultimately, he had to go to an interview in Rio de Janeiro, which he, of course, passed. And he moved here this past September. And we got married shortly after he arrived because per the 90 Day Fiancé, you have to get married within 90 days of arriving. We were really ready and we wanted to get started on the next process. So we got married 1 week after he arrived and then started the next process of paperwork, which is for his green card, which is, again, more paper, more money, more applications. But in spite of all of this effort and money and challenge, it has definitely been worth it. It was really hard to be apart, but the time we got to spend together visiting was wonderful. And now he's been here for 3 months and we're doing wonderful. We have adapted so easily to living together, to married life. And what makes all the difference is great communication that we have, the connection we have, the understanding, and just the ability to be patient and not lose our cool when we're trying to deal with any kind of issue we have together. It's such a big change from my past experience. And I'm really happy that we've made it this far down this path. We still have a lot ahead of us with the immigration process, but people get through it and we will too. And I never imagined I would be married again this soon or married to someone a little younger than me or going through an immigration process. Life is just full of surprises. You never know what's going to come down your path next. And I want to say that for anyone that is going through a divorce or considering a divorce or currently separated, even if it's hard, if you're with the wrong person, it's worth it to get through that difficult time and grow as a person yourself, and then know that you can find a healthy relationship later. I was scared to be alone after being married for so long, but things have been so much better overall since I left my previous relationship. And another thing I learned is that sometimes going through a struggle is really worth it in the long run, like with this immigration process and long distance relationship. If the person's right, then it's worth it to make the effort. So I hope everyone that's been through a divorce can have as positive an outcome as I have.
Goodbye.
Au revoir.
Good night.
Alvida.
Hasta la próxima.
Voices of the World is produced by iUSA Radio and Podtex, a team that helps you to build a community podcast station and stream the truth about your city. To learn more and start building your own podcast business, go to www.streamthetruth.com.